Hey folks, welcome back to our Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a look at Lizard Wizard. Lizard Wizard is brought to you by Forbidden Games. It's for 2 to 5 players, ages 10 and up, and games range anywhere from 45 to 90 minutes. Astoria is a land pulsing with magic and intrigue. A handful of archmages are vying for the loyalty of wizards across the land so they can wield ultimate power. While competing to recruit wizards from 7 unique schools of magic, you will also have to create mystical towers, research powerful spells, summon helpful familiars, and search dark dungeons for gold and items of power. Lizard Wizard is an action selection game, and on your turn you will perform one of 6 actions. You will be gathering magical ingredients called regents. You'll convert these regents into mana, the energy necessary to cast spells. You will compete with the other archmages to recruit wizards from 7 schools of magic. You will create magical towers that will amplify the power of your wizards. You will summon familiars to help you with your tasks, including exploring the dungeons of Astoria. You will also research and cast powerful spells. At the end of the game, you will receive points for having the best wizard and tower combinations, gold, and scoring spells. In Lizard Wizard, only one archmage will rise above the rest and control the land. Will it be you? Now, setup in this one will be slightly different based on the published version of the game. This is the prototype board, and the new version of the board is much cleaner and adds some new things to it. But in general, you're going to be laying out cards in their appropriate spots, and the different decks are going to be set up differently based on the player counts. You'll also set up all the different regions. You'll put cubes at the bottom of those tracks. It is a market and you're trying to raise those prices. The different types of regents are the Mandrake, Sulfur, Toadstool, Horn, Nightshade, Foxglove, and the Eye of Newt. So you'll set all these cubes or tokens out on the board showing their current value. Now across the top of my board there are 8 columns. However, this 8th column that is the wizard column is no longer in use. Instead, there's going to be achievements here. And they're going to just range from all kinds of things like having 7 towers first, wizard towers. If you do that, then you grab that token, and at the end of the game, it's going to give you 10 victory points. What I like about these new achievements to the game is the fact that it does have that race element to the game. You're trying to hurry and get things done quick. So I like that quite a bit. And then of course you have your mana tokens, which is the currency of the realm, and gold tokens. Gold is strictly related to victory points. And so just a quick look at the different decks. We first have the Regent deck, which is all about the spell components. You're going to be raising that market, acquiring those different types of components to help you do different spells and things. And then you've got the towers and the familiars that we'll be purchasing throughout the game. You also have the Dungeon deck, which is going to be the push your luck element to the game. You have spells, which you're going to be acquiring and using frequently. And then you have the bidding part of the game, which is all about acquiring wizards. Now, why are you trying to get all these different types of cards? Well, there's set collection here. And if you have sorcery in the top right corner of the card, will show you an icon along with what type it is. You're trying to get that set, basically. You're trying to get towers, familiars, and wizards, and spells of that different type will gain you all kinds of victory points at the end of the game. So keeping an eye on the different ones that come out and come into play, and purchasing those is crucial throughout. So to start off the game, the first thing you're going to get is 3 Regent cards, along with 20 mana to spend. And then based on where you are in the player order will determine how many different resources you're going to get right out of the gate. And then you get all kinds of actions you can perform on your turn. Again, there's multiple things to do here, lots of choices to be made, but one of the main things is dealing with these regents and getting these spell components. You're going to be looking at your card, and at the top it shows what you're going to just immediately acquire. At the bottom of the card will show you what is actually going to move up in that marketplace, becoming more valuable. So you're gaining resources, hoping to manipulate the market enough to sell them to get more mana, so then you can go after some of these other cards. Now, storage is finite, so you can never only have 10 components at any one time. However, there are ways around this. For every tower that you have, it will give you 1 more spot in your storage area. as well as their spells that was going to aid you here as well. You might be able to have tons and tons of things in storage. But again, the reason you're storing these is that you're trying to manipulate the market enough so you can sell them and get a bunch of mana to spend later. And when you spend this Regent card, then you will discard it and draw a new one. On your turn, you may instead decide to acquire a tower. Now, there's two ways to do this. Interesting thing is that as you move through the game, towers become more and more expensive, and again, that deck will be set up appropriately for that. But you usually want to spend your components. This is another thing you're going to be doing for these different regions that you acquire, is spending them to get these types of cards. Or you might be spending them to do spells. But you do have the choice to spend gold instead. But remember, gold is victory points at the end of the game, so be definitely frugal about spending that gold, unless you really have to. Now, one of my favorite actions to perform this game is acquiring a familiar card, because the familiars allow you to do all kinds of things. First, you're going to pay the cost in mana in the top left corner. And as you progress through the game, that cost is going to get more and more. But one of the things you can do is dungeon dive. Go into the dungeon and try to find treasure and gold. What you're doing is just flipping over cards looking for all those goodies. But you also have to be aware, because there are monsters in this deck. When they hit you twice, you lose everything. So it is that push your luck element as you flip over cards. Don't get greedy here, because you definitely want to grab those treasure and gold cards if you can. Now, the treasure will go into your player area. Gold cards get discarded and you acquire 1 gold per card that you pulled. Then also, it's important to note that if you have spells in place, you might be able to avoid some of the hits from some of the monsters. Or some of the hits might turn into gold. It's pretty awesome, actually. Some of those spells are really powerful. But one of the other things that this card doesn't list, actually, that's going to happen in the final version of the game, is that you'll be able to refresh the marketplace for spells. Basically, dump all those cards and pull new ones out. And once you do that, you actually get to acquire one of those cards as well. Now, you can invoke that card if you choose to, but you have to pay the component cost at the bottom of the card. And if you don't have that available yet, that's fine. You just put it in your player area face down. Again, these spells are going to aid you in all kinds of ways. Familiar cards also allow you to gather some resources, and if you have any spells in play that are face down, you can activate one of them as long as you can pay the cost. Now, the final thing on these cards, the big thing actually, is acquiring gold. So in this case, this is an enchantment card. For every enchantment card you have in play in your area, you're going to gain gold, which is going to add a ton of victory points to you at the end of the game. I found that to be a really effective way to get victory points for sure. And it's important to note that all these options available to you at the bottom of these familiar cards, you can only perform one of those, so you got to choose wisely, and they really can aid you. However, there are spells, which we're going to look at next, that can allow you to activate these cards for a second time and so forth. Again, spells are super powerful, and you just acquire those basically by paying the mana cost. Spells will always cost you 5 mana. This is another action available to you. And if you acquire a spell, you have to pay the regent cost at the bottom to activate it. Now, there's some different things at the bottom of these spells as well, little icons to show you how their usage works. An arrow will indicate you have to pay the cost every time you want to invoke this spell. You have the 1x symbol, which is activated 1 time. You pay the cost and you activate and do what it says. It might allow you to actually have some take that in the game by stealing cards from other players. And then you have the ongoing effects. These cards are particularly powerful, and like I said, there might be cards in here or spells that you've acquired that will be ongoing, that will protect you from different types of monsters in the dungeon. So spells are really powerful, and you do want to acquire them, as well as pay attention to the sets that they relate to. Again, give you more gold perhaps when you get familiars, or you might just be using them for a set collection at the end of the game. But spells should not be sacrificed. You need to gather them for sure. And finally, the bidding part of the game is acquiring wizards. Again, completing sets is one of the reasons you get particular wizards. Now, it's just that simple. You're going to bid. I'm going to bid 5 mana. I'm going to bid 6, 7, 8. You go around the table until everybody passes and somebody wins. And the thing here is that every time you acquire one of these, there is a region in the top corner, left corner. And for every one that you acquire another one of that type. So from your region cards, you take a look at your wizards. They're going to allow you to gain extra resources throughout the game. And those are all the basic actions that you're trying to put together throughout the game. And once one of these decks runs out of cards, that will be the game in trigger, and you'll total up points. And whoever has the most victory points, you know, totaling sets, you'll be totaling all your different gold that you have, as well as spells that may give you additional victory points based on other criteria. And whoever has the most will be the ultimate archmage of the land. All right, folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview. Everything you've seen here has been in prototype form, so keep a close eye on the campaign for any changes that still may occur. Now, with that said, you know, if you are familiar with Raccoon Tycoon, this will seem somewhat familiar. This is definitely building upon that other game, but set in a fantasy world with magic, which I find way more intriguing for me personally. I like the spells, the familiars, the dungeon diving. Again, you've got the market stuff that you're doing, really adds a lot to the game. So fun. And again, in the victory points, keep in mind that this version I'm showing you doesn't have it, but you'll have those additional achievements that you can get throughout the game. And again, it's that bit of a race, like I said earlier, trying to acquire those tokens. But it does add 10 points of victory to your total. So you want to keep an eye out for that for sure. But ultimately, folks, if this looks like a game that would be of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me. And until next time, we'll see you at the table.